right, we're going to welcome everyone back who's still with us here on this live panel right now for our post-ceremony career panel. Things very appropriate for what we're going through right now. Career 101, navigating the new normal. And I think we're definitely in the new normal right now, going into this volatile job market. But first, I want to introduce our panel today. We have Maggie Hsu and June Kim. Let me talk to you a little bit about Maggie. Maggie is the co-founder of Gold House, a nonprofit collective of pioneering Asian leaders dedicated to systemically accelerating the Asian diaspora societal's impact while enhancing the community's cultural legacy. She's also a co-founder of Mochi Magazine, an online magazine for Asian Americans. Maggie holds an undergraduate and MBA degrees from Harvard University. June Kim currently serves as a partner at New Paradigm Strategy Group, where he collaborates with clients to integrate grassroots campaign strategy and digital strategy and engage and transform the likes and followers into in-person actions and engagement. June is a 2016 recipient of the National Association of Asian Pacifics in Politics and Public Affairs 40 Under 40 list. He went to the University of Maryland with a Bachelor of Arts in Governmental and International Relations. So let's welcome Maggie and June to our panel today. So I'm going to start with you, Maggie. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in your field and what advice you have for new grads going into the job market right now.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me and congratulations to everyone. It's a huge accomplishment. My day job is I work at Amazon. I work at Amazon Web Services and I work in blockchain. And so I'm in the tech space and kind of on the side is one of my passions is really advancing Asian Americans. And so I'm involved in Gold House and Mochi Magazine. I'd say on the tech side of things, obviously, a number of these companies that are providing essential services, both digitally as well as in terms of, how we eat and how we function and all these different infrastructure services as well as healthcare, those are more critical than ever. And I think that, if we think about the different types of services that, aren't able to function now as well, hospitality and things like that, and a lot of the gaming in Nevada, this is potentially the new normal. I don't want to sugarcoat it. This is, not maybe the path that you had or the thing you envisioned doing. But I think that with this uncertainty, always brings potential. And so there's this really great opportunity, as Simu and others have said, to take this time and really think through, what is it that you're passionate about that where you could really fit into this new normal, whether it's skills that you have, skills that you want to learn. I know you just graduated from school and you might not necessarily want to learn more, but this is a great opportunity to do that. So I'd say, be adaptable. There are opportunities out there. Amazon alone hired something like almost 200,000 jobs over the past few months. And so there are companies hiring, and it's really just a matter of making sure that you find those opportunities.
Yeah, and let's bring June into the conversation here. And June, you work with young people across the country. And of course, this is such a tough market. We're coming in, this is what the worst unemployment rate since the Great Depression, not a really good positive vibe to go into. But you say there are opportunities there as well, right? For people to kind of maybe pivot and maybe think a little bit more about their skills and what they can do out there in the job market.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me on here. And I'm really glad I got the chance to speak to new young graduates from college. And just thinking about your question and what Maggie just said and what Simu said earlier, I think it is really important to take a step back sometimes and think about what gets you motivated and what gets you up in the morning. I was actually going over in my head how I ended up in the position that I'm in right now, which is doing a lot of political work, doing a lot of organizing, getting to work with not only elected officials, former President Barack Obama, but also with community organizations and people actually that want to make a difference. And I just, want to say that I think people need to be willing to take risks, and people need to be willing to just kind of think outside the box, right? Like, I remember growing up, my mom wanted me to go to the Naval Academy. I grew up in Maryland, so that was a easy thing for her to keep on trying to push on me. And then she wanted me to be a doctor, and then she wanted me to be a lawyer. And, I am neither one of those things. And I think at the end of the day, my parents still say to people and their friends that I work for the Democratic Party. which I do not work for the Democratic Party. I work in politics. I work for Fortune 500 companies. I work for all sorts of different people who have issues, not only in Washington, D.C., but issues all over the country. But, you know, don't think about disappointing your parents too much. They'll love you and understand what you are doing and support you, and all the ways that they have supported you up until now, and just find something that you love.
Yeah, Maggie, I know you work with Amazon, a huge company, tech company. They're known for communicating, of course, in a very high-tech way. And now, as we're doing this via Zoom, a lot more companies are conducting, even the hiring process is through Zoom and through video conferencing. So Maggie, what's your advice for graduates who are not maybe going to go into a normal interview atmosphere? They're doing it through Zoom. What's your advice for making that first impression through technology?
Yeah, I mean, I think very tactically, it's, despite the technology, it's all about that connection and that presence. And so making sure that you're not distracted, you're really prepared for the interview or the conversation. I personally love seeing there's a Twitter feed that talks about people's backgrounds. And so looking at you guys all have like really interesting talking points in your Zoom backgrounds. I have a fan, so I didn't practice, what I preach, but there's actually all these ways you can bring interest to your personality, because, if you're just talking to someone through a Zoom, once they shut the screen or once they go away, they don't have that chance to interact and say, sometimes off the cuff conversation at the beginning or the end of a conversation. And so having that interest in the environment you can control, which is literally what's behind you and what people see, I think that's really important. And so I think, this whole social distancing, I hate that term because it's really physical distancing. And at the end of the day, the social component is still there. And so, everyone is getting burned out from all the screen time. So are there ways in which you can differentiate yourself? I don't have a good answer. I think you actually might, as some of the graduates, of better ways to engage.
Do the research. Make sure you, are comfortable and can be yourself. Make sure that you're ready to actually give some emotion, give some feeling behind that video chat. Be willing to do stuff like that, because at the end of the day, it is real life, but it isn't real life, and kids are gonna run into your Zoom conference, right? That's happened to me probably every single day, for the last 2 months. My dog tries to jump on the bed with me while I'm sitting here having serious conversations. So just be willing to kind of roll with stuff and make sure that you are comfortable with yourself.
And I want to go back to Maggie. COVID-19 pandemic affecting us right now. What do you see in terms of what they should do to plan for this new normal, a new job market?
You go look at a job board or you talk to a career counselor, it's actually quite limiting in a way. So you just have, those are the opportunities that are out there. And what I didn't know for a very long time, and I think a lot of new grads don't know, is oftentimes the best jobs aren't even posted there. So, there's already these opportunities to get in somewhere even before the job is posted. And so I used to work for Zappos CEO, Tony Hsieh. I actually got the job because I cold emailed him. So I loved his philosophy. I had read his book and I sent him a very short cold email. This was in 2013 or 2015. It was a while back. And I said, this is why I resonate with your philosophy and how can I help? And that job opportunity was not posted anywhere. He wrote back, invited me out to Vegas. I ended up, I was supposed to be there for 2 months. I ended up staying 3.5 years. I think this is a time to be creative. I had another great example that I saw where, I was having the worst time ordering groceries on Whole Foods and Amazon myself. I'm immunocompromised, and so I wasn't going out. And so I couldn't get a delivery slot. And I was asking everyone, my husband's a computer scientist. I was like, can you just program something so I can get a slot? And he's like, oh, I'll do it later. But I came across the CNBC article, and there was a college kid who had just graduated studying computer science, and he wrote a script to help basically get you a time slot. It would refresh the page every 30 seconds. And in return, he open sourced it. Anyone could download it. He was looking for a job. And I sent him a note. I was like, if you ever, want a job, I'm happy to recommend you. I mean, because of him, I was able to get a delivery slot the next day. He got national press, and he just went and built something that was useful. I think he built it for his aunt or his grandparents who were also immunocompromised, and they couldn't go out. I think just that sort of thinking outside the box. So I have a friend who graduated from business school then, and there weren't a lot of opportunities. And so what he did was he actually offered to volunteer at one of the top tier investment banks, Goldman Sachs. And you don't think, you think Goldman Sachs can pay, like, why would I volunteer? But he actually offered to volunteer. He did that. And then when they had a job that opened up, he was obviously the first person they called because they knew him, right? And he had worked for them and proven that. So, if that's something that you can do, whether it's part-time or full-time, I think that's another great way to get in the door.
Yeah, and I teach at UNLV right now, and I tell my students one of the best things you can do is go and volunteer or do an internship, right? Because that's how you get your foot in the door, even if it doesn't pay. You get to know people inside the company, inside that organization, and if they like you, and if you're a hard worker, there's a really good chance of them hiring you after the fact, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And you talked about the entrepreneurial spirit, and let's get back to June on this one. Right now, because of limited opportunities, as Maggie was saying, a lot of students, graduates, may be thinking of starting their own business. Is that something that you recommend? And if they are doing that, what are some of the things that you think they should think about?
I was forced out of my comfort zone, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs are asked to do. But it also taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot of skills, and it actually now gives me the opportunity to, work with organizations in places like Nevada, work with organizations in Michigan. Like, people from California call me all the time asking for my advice on whatever issue or campaign or things like that they're trying to do. And as a partner now of a small business, I kind of think back to what my parents had to do, right? Like, my parents moved here in their 30s. They were both small business owners. They ran a breakfast and lunch carryout place. And I think it's all kind of like within ourselves as immigrants to kind of grow up in that environment probably and see like our parents doing something that they definitely didn't think they would be doing themselves. I don't think that is a bad idea. I just don't think you like do it without doing some research, do it without like finding opportunity, right? Like, probably right now, not a very good time to open up a restaurant or like a lunch and carry out place in anywhere in America, right? But if you have skills like Maggie was talking about, programming and coding, like, I know companies are hiring like crazy for that, and a lot of those jobs are probably independent contractor jobs at this point.
I think that's definitely great advice. Now, I want to get Maggie your take on this a little bit, because of course this event is presented by the Asian Community Development Council, a great nonprofit, and a lot of people are giving back to nonprofits like this, and they're giving their time as well. Do you feel like that helps? Maybe a lot of our graduates have volunteered and been part of the nonprofits. Do you look at those experiences of them giving back to the community and doing stuff like that to get into an organization like Amazon, for example?
Absolutely. I think in any, when I hire in, any of the organizations I'm involved in, I'm looking for passion, I'm looking for leadership, I'm looking for creativity. And that comes through in any setting, even if it's, a nonprofit setting. I think that volunteering and kind of, that's sometimes where people are the most creative, because in some ways when you're constrained, so at a nonprofit, if you have a financial constraint, you have to come up with creative solutions just naturally. And so always looking for people that are able to just think creatively and be persistent. Oftentimes that first solution might not work, and that's okay. Something that Tony taught me at Zappos a lot was this notion, people say fail fast, but I say just, it doesn't have to be fast, but, fail often. And so, when I think about the number of different ideas that I might have, like, why not try it? Like Tony used to say, the worst that could happen, back if you were living in like caveman times, was you'd get like eaten by a bear. Like if if everything failed and you had nowhere to live, like you were out on your own. But now, for many people, you might have a place to stay, and, it's okay. And you can do something online. You might still have a computer. So there's this opportunity to try and iterate. I think in terms of like tactical things, I've been surprised about how people haven't jumped into things like AR and VR as much as I would expect. I mean, this seems like, an opportunity that's tailor-made for that. And I think it's because we still don't understand a lot of those areas. And so for anyone who is a gamer, who's interested in virtual reality, who's a streamer, like all those things are coming together in new and interesting ways. And I think that that's a really great area of opportunity as well.
Our show producer right now is giving me a good tip, actually, because I want this to be a very interactive session so I'm going to actually use June as I'm going to pretend that June is my client. Okay. So June, I'm going to get you back on here. And what I teach people, especially people going into interviews, and a lot of people are doing their Zoom interviews and stuff now, right? So June, so tell me if you were doing a Zoom interview, would you be like, what would you be doing? You would not be probably not sitting on a couch, right? And you would be wearing something like a suit and tie. What do you think?
Well, this is the first time in probably 2 months that I've worn like a button-down shirt. I have an interview on Monday with somebody that I am looking to hire. So, obviously be professional. Think about, your space. Like you said, like there's a desk like a couple of feet away from me, but behind like the view, if I'm sitting at the desk, is actually my wife's closet. And I forgot to close the door. So like you guys would be staring at all her clothes, right? So like I was thinking about that before, setting myself up for this. And then just like make sure you shower, make sure you would do all of the things that you would do like if you were meeting somebody in person. Like I know we're all sitting at home. I know, for the first 3 or 4 weeks I didn't shave. Make sure you are presentable, make sure you do the research, make sure that you're thinking about the Zoom interview the same exact way you would think about like a live in-person interview.
Yeah, and that's, you're hitting all the points that I tell my clients, whether they're doing an interview or they're just video conferencing, to really, I think if you dress the part, you'll feel the part, right? If you dress professionally, you feel like you know what you're talking about. That body language is really important. I know that the way you're setting up your camera is very important. I'm not picking on you, June. You're doing this for us, but if you're interviewing, you want to make sure, I always tell people the key thing is like keeping that eye contact, right? You just look straight at the camera and keep that eye contact, because that is just, your connection with someone is your eye contact. I always say, yes, be aware of your surrounding. Don't have the bathroom in the background or people walking around in the background. Like really be aware of that. Like I say, the biggest thing is make sure you're not sitting in front of a window behind you, because with all the light coming in, you're getting back. I mean, that is the trick, right? I don't think Maggie's doing that. Maggie, are you doing? No, I can kind of see it. So like little things like that matters, right? Because your hiring manager is going to kind of look at the whole picture. They can't see you in person, so they want to see your personality. They want to kind of get a sense of how professional you are, even when you're at home. Do you agree, Jim?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I mean, while you were speaking, like I was looking at your background and I was like, wow, there's some awards back there. Is that an Emmy?
That is an Emmy.
That's awesome. Like you're like you said, like your background, like doing it the way you are, obviously you're standing and like you're probably comfortable doing that because of like the type of work that you were doing. I think that's great.
Oh, hi, Vita. Vita, surprise guest. How are you?
I think Patricia does a great job in teaching us how to work on media and where we should sit, how our background is. So I want to give her a shout out.
Oh, thank
you. The video
you.
that you saw was from her teaching me and educating me what to do, because I didn't know how to, be in front of a camera and how to do the taping. So I want to make sure that everybody takes this opportunity to learn from Patricia as much as you can, because moving forward, we're probably doing more Zoom interview and meetings that's online. So those things that she taught me really helped a lot.
Thank you. And by the way, everyone, if you don't know, that is our Vita Lin, the founder and president of the Asian Community Development Council, who did a great video. So good job. A+ on your video there, Vita. Thank you. Hey, let's bring Maggie into the fold here. I kind of want to wrap things up. I think we're going to end here in about less than 10 minutes. Maggie, talk to me a little bit, just final words, especially what people need to put on their LinkedIn, what they need to put out there right now if they're looking for a job.
Yeah, I think Again, it goes back to taking that time and using this opportunity to think through not necessarily what your future in the next 10, 20 years, like that almost seems too momentous. The way I think about it is, where do you want to go generally, and what are some steps that you can do to get there? But it's okay to zig and zag. It doesn't have to be linear. I've had, like 8 to 10 different careers over the course of as many years. I think in today's society, it's not like you go to one company often and you're there for your whole career. So I think it's okay to kind of experiment and hop and learn and grow. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have this perfect resume where every story fits in. I mean, that almost isn't authentic. And so I'd say just think through how you can be authentic to yourself, to your interests, to your passions, and everything will come from there. And you might feel like an opportunity is kind of getting you in the right direction. Go take it, right? It might not be, maybe it's in a different geography or it's in a different industry, but take it and then you'll know, like, has this really helped me? Okay, maybe I can move to the next opportunity. And so I think, again, use this time to experiment.
If people wanted to get in touch with you about opportunities in Amazon or in the tech world, any word of advice in that field for them?
Sure. I mean, definitely feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd say in terms of working remotely, we have, this incredibly connected world and culture. I'm on calls from morning till evening with folks in Europe and Australia and Asia. And so I think that's really exciting too. And I think in that sense, there's global opportunity for what you can do and what that scope is. And so I wouldn't kind of limit it to your geography or what or, there's so much opportunity there.
Yeah, and that's definitely hopeful. And June, I'm going to bring you in. You're a positive guy, right? Even though we're living in kind of a negative world right now. What are some kind of the positive messages that you can put out there as we navigate this new normal, as our graduates look out to the job market as they're getting out there today?
Oh wow! Who told you I was positive? I work in politics. No, I'm kidding. Like, realistically, this is going to be the worst economy since the Great Depression, right? Like, unemployment's going to be over 30-something%. And what I would say to kind of spin that into the positive is there are going to be opportunities. You guys just have to be willing to take risks and willing to kind of be flexible, like a lot of folks have mentioned, and kind of push the boundaries of what you might have studied in college, but, try to find some sort of pivot to something else, right? So, like, I never thought, like, with my degree, I would be working with tech companies like that or, like, helping them solve problems, but, I do, and, like, that's, like, I don't have, like, computer science or engineering or anything like that, like, in my background or in my resume. The positive thing is like, you always have this opportunity because of how interconnected we are, because of all this new technology, to try new things. There is plenty of runway for you guys in order to find what you guys are passionate about. And
just, this is a time of celebration. You've accomplished so much. I would just remember that. And, you have an incredibly bright future ahead of you. So I'm really, really excited for all of you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Maggie and June, for both of you on the East Coast joining us here on the West Coast. And I also want to thank Vida, our founder and president of ACDC, and the organization, and all our supporters, all our graduates. I see quite a few of you still watching. Thank you so much for staying on for this post-ceremony career panel. I just want to remind you that you always can reach out to the Asian Community Development Council for all kinds of information and resources. Just go to their website at acdcnb.org for more information. We're so proud of you. Congratulations, class of 2020. Good luck, and thank you for watching.